Hello and welcome to a very special podcast. I am your host, Billy. I am joined in this very great celebration of Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweets 4 years. I am joined by the great leader, the higher power, the big cheese. I'm sure there's many other names, ones I probably can't say on this medium. It's Stephen Wilson. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Billy. Thanks for having me. Yes, there's many names that people have used for me in the past. I could be here all day with some of the insults I've been thrown at me over the years.
I was going to say, that's probably the nicest intro you've had in quite a while.
The higher power one is one from the archives. I do remember that. And then as the last 4 years have went by, it's just descended downwards and downwards and downwards. And yeah, I get some brutal ones, but I take it in the chin, as we all know.
I'm sure you do. So yeah, this is a very special celebration episode of Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet, SWN. It's some sort of simulcast. It's like I'll say I'm Nitro, you can be Raw, and we're trying to just celebrate yourselves. Just give yourself a bit of a pat on the back and just talk about the history of Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet. 4 years though, has time flown?
Yeah, especially in the last 2 or so, for other reasons other than the podcast. It's a mental one. When I first started it, I was like, right, if I can keep this going for maybe like a year or so, I might be bored of it. Other people might be bored of it, but no, fair play. It's kept going. Everybody seems to still enjoy it the same way they used to, and it's expanded all the time. So yeah, I feel like it's just getting stronger.
So let's go right back to the start then, as all good stories do. What made you decide to start Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet?
Well, you've alluded to it in the past, Billy, when you spoke to Kwaku. Kwaku obviously gave you some of the details, but it stemmed from our uni days in a way. So I kind of like myself, Kwaku, David Hockney, Stacey, and a couple of the other past pod members, Josh Hong and James Murphy, were quite pally at uni and stuff. Me and Dave did our own radio show as well, where we talked quite a lot about wrestling on it. We called it Tables, Ladders and Tunes, which you may appreciate. Couldn't transition that into the podcast name because we played music and just talked about wrestling in between. So it was like, yeah, the wrestling podcast can't get that. But anyway, we wanted some way to kind of talk about wrestling. So started up a blog. Us lot, a few other ones who are never really made it to the pod jump. And in 2017, I ran an event at Strathclyde Uni. It was like I was an alumni radio broadcast for charity. We went 36 hours straight doing that one. I had a show every hour for that full spell. It was quite a task. It was something else, but there was a lot of guys that did that who were quite into wrestling, and there was a lot of. I interviewed Mark Dallas as part of that stream as well. So there was a kind of bit of an appetite from us in Strathclyde Fusion, with the radio station name, to do something. And obviously, I did the wrestling blog, so I was like, why don't I make it in a podcast? So I got a lot of the same guys that I did originally from the blog days. We dabbled with doing the idea a few months before it, never really got a way of doing it. It was before, obviously, the Zoom buzz and everything with the current pandemic stuff. Skype wasn't as good as it is now. And we kind of, because we got a space to record in every week, Wednesday, we're going live. That's how we got the podcast started. And then it's just transitioned from there. That was back in October 2017 now, 4 years ago.
So, because I'm a terrible host, I haven't even told people they can get their comments in and questions. So, if you're listening and watching live right now, you can get your comments in and you can get your questions to Stephen, and we'll ask pretty much anything.
I'm an open book. You can ask me anything. I don't really. I'm waiting for it. I know there's some guys in the pods will be dying to stitch me here, so.
That's why I'm just putting 90% of them. Oh, hang on, we've got our first one in. So I knew this one was coming in from Kwaku. So for those who are listening, why wasn't he invited to the first show, and do you regret the decision ever since?
I regret the decision bringing him in since, if I have to. No, in all seriousness. Why I didn't invite Kwaku the first one. We actually did a recording. We briefly had a link up with a community radio station in Bishop Briggs. Essentially, it didn't really work out. There's a lot of other reasons for it. It was a whole big thing, but we recorded a couple of recordings there. I don't know if I still got them somewhere on my laptop. They never really saw the light of day. They were very unstructured. You wouldn't know we did it. But Kwaku actually did that recording. He was there for that. And then we did our first show on Eddie Guerrero. And I really can't remember why. I think he asked to be in it. And I said, I'm going to have Dave, and I'm going to have somebody else. And then I think Kwaku arrived at the studio like 15, 20 minutes into us recording and just kind of sat there and watched it. And I was like, I hadn't done the student radio in donkeys, and I'm trying to work the dial was on the DJ booth, and it was just like, yeah, this is not the way it used to be. I was trying to put the volume up. If you listen to episode 1, it starts off with a very, very loud rendition of the Usos theme music, because this is just me trying to get the eye of the dial. So it starts quite quiet. I went to my van and it goes, Usos! So I was like, yeah, if I want to host this, I kind of need some help. And then Kwaku was there ever since, and we did it before the pandemic pretty much. Kwaku was on hand for technical support live as we did it, as we recorded face to face. Takes a bit more of a back seat. He does kind of the back house stuff now. He's not as much on the recordings because of other reasons. But yeah, I don't know why, to answer Kwaku's questions, I don't know why I didn't bring you on, but I'm glad that I kept you in there because it bailed me out of jail so many times.
But no, I know from my own experience trying to work at a desk, I did hostel radio for a bit, and I don't think when you listen to radio now, after doing that, you kind of give a little bit more appreciation to how they can do it live and make it sound normal. Whereas we are like going, buttons, okay, I need to put it down so I can speak. I've done a whole show, I did an hour of a hostel radio show where I was turning up the wrong dial, so nobody could hear me. I was just turning up and down the music and not actually turning up and down my mic. It was a very, very embarrassing day for me. So it's one of those things. But so you're doing kind of all the audio stuff like in there at the time, which I suppose made it a little bit easier for editing. Did you find that easier to do that, or did you find it was a lot more difficult to actually edit out bits because you were mixing at the same time?
It was good to have Kwaku there, because Kwaku was good at keeping an eye on the stuff, because when we originally put it out, it was a different product that we had a live there, because we were going out live on the Strathclyde Fusion stream. So we did everything like built for radio. Nowadays, as you know, Billy would pre-record a lot of the stuff, so it's a lot easier to do the editing side of things because you've got a lot of time. But when you're going live, it's kind of like you're thinking on your feet, and you're kind of, you know that you're going to, if you say something a bit iffy, it's going to be out there in the ether, and you can cut it when we put it on the podcast feed. But it was handy enough that most of us had done, a couple of us had done the radio stuff at uni. So we kind of had an idea of how the systems worked, like Audacity and that type of stuff. We'd used it for many years. So that side of stuff was a bit easier. It was more the kind of jumping between radio and podcast, plus, putting things out pretty much right away. We would put it out on the Wednesday, release it on the Thursday. So we didn't really take a lot of breath. And that's quite a common thing, obviously, for radio stations, because they've got quite a big team and that type of stuff. But we were literally sometimes doing the podcast, finishing at 7. Sometimes we would go for a pint, go for a pint after it. We would be coming home about 10, half 10, 11 o'clock. And if maybe Kwaku, may have been myself, sometimes if Kwaku was busy, we'd have to do a brief edit of this thing at like 10, half 11 o'clock at night, because we were always like, no, we need to get this out first thing for everybody. And it was just like, now it's just like, yeah, we'll record it a couple of weeks in advance and we'll just try and get something out. But yeah, it's so much better polished though over the time, because the first 10 or so episodes we do are so rough. They were so rough to listen back to. I've got one episode, I think it's episode 3 or episode 2, that if you listen to it back, you just can't listen to it anymore, because it's just, the sound quality is terrible. Because I don't think we get the mics connected properly. I think there was an issue with the mic connections, so we all sound so ruffled. It's cringe to look back on it, because you listen to some of the stuff we put out now, it's sharp as anything.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I'm got sympathy for you. I mean, when I only started mine last year, so I only started doing this properly last year. I did bits and pieces of older stuff, which are on Patreon if anyone wants to go find them. But the same thing. If I go listen back to something I did in 2017, and I go, that wasn't me. That wasn't me who did that. Surely it wasn't, because he's awful. I mean, I listened to his stuff last week, and I'll think the same thing. But it's like 3 years ago. You're thinking, no, definitely not.
It's hard to listen back to yourself at times. I find sometimes you listen back to some of the stuff you say, you're like, oh no, why did I say that? I mean, because I released a lot of. You've seen yourself, Billy. I was doing a bit of digging into some old intros recently, and I listened back to some of the intros, and it's just, what am I doing? Everybody says to me, you're from Elgin, Billy, so you understand this one. A lot of people say to me, why do you put on accents when you're on podcasts? I don't know if you've ever noticed this. I get a lot of things. A great story is mine and my fiance's engagement party. A couple, Alan McLucas and Kwaku arrived to the engagement party, and I go, I'm introducing them, like, to my mum and dad, and it was like, oh, this is Alan, this is Kwaku. And my dad goes out to Kwaku, you're the guy that does the podcast every week with Stephen. He's like, yeah. He's like, why does he put on accents all the time? I'm like, oh God, I don't realise I'm doing it. I sound dead normal when it's because I'm thinking while I'm speaking. So when I think, I kind of talk like this, and that's kind of where it comes from.
I get it. It's like when you retell a story that yourself are involved in. For some reason, my voice, my accent, my own voice when I mock it is thicker Scottish than it actually is. So I'm just like, oh, and I said to him, nay. I don't sound like that anyway. So why would I make up a voice for myself for the story that I'm telling about myself? I absolutely get that. So you're building a team. You're building a team at ESSR. Because I've got like a half structure when I'm doing recordings. You'll know, for if you've listened to any episode of my own podcast, it starts off as a structure and then tails off very quickly. But so you built your team initially, ESSR. Was there any? You had your radio guys, the guys you obviously come up with. How did you expand then? How did you end up bringing other folk on board? Because you've got quite a big team at ESSR.
Yeah, I was kind of I'm sometimes a bit too ambitious, but I quite like the idea of a big team, because I find sometimes if you listen to something weekly, month, whatever, if you hear sometimes the same voices all the time, you might sometimes get a bit sick of it. It's different for yourself, Billy. Obviously, you're a one-man band most of the time. It's just, obviously, people tune in for you speaking to people. But when it's a panel discussion type format that we've got, you don't essentially want the same 5 people talking about the subject, because eventually you'll start repeating stuff. That's why I wanted kind of a bigger group of people. So a lot of the ones to begin with were quite self-explanatory. David Hockney, everybody knows David Hockney. David Hockney is one of my best pals. I've been friends with David Hockney for 11 years. We did the same course at uni together. 2 courses at uni together, actually. So he was an obvious one. Kwaku and Stacey I met the year after. I've known them for 10 years. And I've known Josh quite a lot, who was part of the podcast at that time as well. I never knew Kwaku. Kwaku says himself, I never knew Kwaku liked wrestling for so long. It was mental. When I found that he liked wrestling, I was so shocked. Some of the other ones just kind of came together in different ways. When we were on Twitter, we had interaction. We got quite a good relationship, and they followed us with the Glasgow University Pro Wrestling Society. So we started talking to a bunch of guys from them, and that's how we recruited some of the folk from there. Nathan Fisher, who used to be a member of our team, and current members of the team, Andy Mitchell and the egotistical one, I'm not joking now, David Campbell, have stemmed from the Glasgow Uni side of things. And then a lot of the other ones are just through kind of like relationships we kind of built up with people we use, people like guys we had in, they were like, I know this guy is into wrestling, so they can come involved. So Ross McLeod, I played 5-a-sides with Ross McLeod because I was childhood friends with his cousin. And every Monday night we would play 5-a-sides, and eventually we found out that we both liked wrestling. So it was like Monday night after a pay-per-view or before Raw, we just sit before playing 7-a-sides, we'd talk about the wrestling. And a few times I had some opens on the panel, and I invited him in, and he got consistently on board, and that's how he became a member. He lamped his brother in, so that's why he's in. So that's how Scott got involved. A couple of them are family members, Gary and Derek Kernan. They're both my cousins, but I'm an only child, so that side of our family, apart from Gary's son now, there's only 3 boys, and it was us 3. And we were all into football, the 3 were into wrestling. So they got involved with that side of things. A few people we talked at shows we eventually got in. Sarah, for example. Sarah, who met through ICW shows and all the Scottish wrestling shows. She was a very early fan of the pod. We really liked what she brought in terms of knowledge. So that's how she came in. Alan McLucas was really good friends with Kwaku beforehand. Him and Kwaku are best friends. Kwaku was one of the wedding party at his wedding. Kwaku said, I've got a friend who's really into wrestling. So that's how Alan came on board. So there was a lot of stuff like that. I'm trying to remember. Strack. I worked with Strack at Curry's before I got my current job when I was at uni. There was 3 of us who were always talked about wrestling. And again, I had a spare shot one day. He came in, really liked what Strack did, and that's how he came on board. So the early stuff was really word of mouth. And then a couple of years ago, we trialed what we did recently, Billy, with we put out an open invitation to people to try and come on board. We thought we'd be there for 2 years. We're quite established. Let's try and bring some more people on board. And we got some really strong names from that. I forgot about Ryan Gallagher. Sorry. Ryan Gallagher, I met on, see, I mentioned the Strathclyde Fusion Alumni Day. Ryan came on board from that. He initially backed out, but then came back on board. So that's how Ryan got involved in. But the open invitation, the first one we did, we got Chris Murray came in. Chris Murray was actually the station manager at Strathclyde Fusion when myself and David were there. So technically, if anybody is responsible for the podcast, it's Chris Murray, because Chris Murray gave us a chance to do radio. And then we got.
So that's the end of the podcast. We'll get Chris in, and Chris is going to do that.
Oh yeah, Chris is it. But yeah, that open invitation we got. Also got Jack Graham. We got Daniel Campbell, who is brilliantly producing this video or live here. We got we also got Ryan Wilson on that one, and then we've got Grant McRobbie. Oh, he came in just after that as well. Grant, we also met at shows. We had him in a couple of times as a guest, but his knowledge of stuff that was a bit more niche, Japan, UK scene stuff was great to have on the edition. And then recently, we obviously had a similar recruitment drive to bring some new faces on board, such as Callum Bennett, Tom McManus, and of course yourself, Billy. You're obviously contributing some stuff now to us. So
I am, yes. Well, I mean, I was after my chat with Kwaku. It was literally, I think I had a chat with him, and then you put out the post about getting on board, and I was just like, you know what? Why not? Really, because I don't have a lot of friends that are wrestling fans. That's the weirdest thing. Like yourself, you've got a big community. I think it's mainly because it's more populated area down.
Yeah, Central Belt's a bit different from up the north side. Yeah.
Yeah, and up here it's the sticks, and I'd rather just not. It's weird. It's weird that wrestling thing it's still one of those dirty secrets, isn't it? Being a fan. We've got to do a question in from James W.T. Campbell. He's put, "Are you going to Fair City Wrestling in New Hope?" So this is a company in Perth. I don't know if you know much about Fair City Wrestling. I'm not going because I'm in Elgin. But do you know any of the team that are going up to Fair City?
I think we have I'm familiar with the company. I've not really done. I'll be honest with you, Billy, I only really went to shows that are in round about the Glasgow area because it's just a bit. I went to Discovery a couple of weeks ago. That was the first time I've been at Discovery in Edinburgh. So maybe outside of that, there is obviously some great talent in the Scottish scene still, and MD's going to enjoy it. I don't really know MD of it's going, but yeah, if it's a good show, then fair play to them.
So we've got Jack Graham, who you've mentioned already. One of the best concepts of the podcast is the fantasy draft. How did it come about? And then how did it evolve to eventually incorporate a 25-person listeners league?
Yes. I knew he was going to ask about this. He loves the draft, as Jack. He hosts, obviously, our Saturday Draft Live show every week, along with Scott, David, and David. Yeah, I'm a big fan of, as I mentioned, I'm a big football fan. I've got, outside of family and friends, I've got three loves: wrestling, football, and pop culture, TV, film type stuff. I love that stuff. And football, obviously, a big part of football is fantasy football type stuff. Everybody loves fantasy football. Trying to keep up with it's an absolute nightmare. I don't know if you ever tried it yourself, Billy. It's horrendous how to keep up with. You keep up with it for the first 3 weeks because you're really into it. Then it's like, right, I need to make my subs, I need to change, and it's like you end up this. You start the first 3 weeks on a really strong point, and the next thing you check it 6 months later, and you're nearly at the bottom. But the concept's good, and I thought, why has nobody ever done this with wrestling? I think this would be great with wrestling. So I just one day on a whim came up with the idea internally, going, if I did a wrestling fantasy league, would any of you guys want to do it? And about a few bunches of guys, I think it was about 7 or 8 to start, we were like, yeah, I'll do this. I mean, what's your rules come up with? I came up with a lot of the rules for it kind of on a whim type idea. Like, you get points for appearances, you get points for wins, you lose points for losing, it's double for titles and that type of stuff. And just kind of ran with it. And it got really popular internally. I mean, the guys, you obviously heard about it yourself, Billy. A lot of the guys internally love it because it brings a bit of competition. Sometimes, especially in the time in 2019 when I started that draft concept, it was just before obviously AEW was doing the weekly Dynamite stuff, and the WWE stuff at a lot of the time was getting a bit stale. It was that point they were doing the Superstar Exchange stuff. It was a bit crap, and I thought this could. And a lot of people said it's like this kind of keeps me engaged with the current product because they'll follow what's happening on Raw, they'll follow what's happening on SmackDown, even though they think it's crap, because they want to see if the people on their team are scoring points. And it's a great way, I thought, of just keeping people going in the product and just building a bit of competition internally. And we're now on season 10 of it internally. And I thought, yeah, that's what I'm really proud of that concept of what it did. The Listeners League thought of it, I kind of thought, right, if we're going to do a weekly show analysing this draft, you need some way to kind of get people to kind of listen to it. And if it's just people in the pod and you want to try and follow how they're doing, you're less likely maybe to be, you maybe are engaged and interested with it, but I think if you have an opportunity to take part in a way yourself, it makes that more interesting for people to listen to. And we're now on the 4th season of the Listeners League concept of it, and there is a group of them who really like the idea. It keeps them, they feel similar to what the guys internally do as well. Some of the guys love the prospect of trying to get into their league to try and beat us, and it's quite funny sometimes because, not to disrespect anybody, but the Listeners League concept is a bit different from the main league because the main league kind of works like NFL draft style. Like once the person's picked, nobody else can pick them. Well, the Listeners League's kind of like pots, and some people can have the same picks. So when they go from that to the main league and they try to pick guys, it's like, oh, I'm going to pick them. It's like, no, they've already been picked. It's like, oh, right. And it gets your mind thinking in a completely different way about wrestling. I mean, it just brings a different level of analysis, I feel.
Well, I can tell you when I did it for one season, and I think I've definitely finished top 5, and I've never been so invested in seeing Adam Pearce because he was one of my pop picks, and nobody else picked him. And he was just racking up a couple appearance points each week. And I was like, there was a week where he had a match, I think, and I was like, yes, Adam Pearce has a match. That's my points sorted. Yeah. So yeah, that definitely helps. We've got Daniel Campbell asking, he's just saying his team may be losing right now, but forever proud of his team name. Pretty fly for a Paul Heyman guy. Yeah. Speak about the names then. There's some inventive names in the draft.
Yeah, there is some. I'm trying to think of the ones we've got currently, because I am never brilliant at remembering the old names. The person on the draft show who loves the team names is David Hockney. I did not have the draft team names in the spreadsheet for a good. I didn't have them until the current season, and every time he'd be like, "Where's the team names? Where's the team names?" I'm like, Dave, I don't really care. I care about the people who are ranked, but I don't really. I'm not as invested in the team name. They kept going, "You need to put the team names in." I'm like, fine. But yeah, this season, what's the ones we've got this season? The personal favourite of everybody internally is Stacey Smith's team name this season, the Nikki Bardabellas. It's a great favourite. Stacey was on the most recent edition of the show, and David started it with a rendition of Cups. Anna Kendrick singing that to start with. Absolutely brilliant. We have Isaac Draftham from Scott McLeod. It's a fantastic name.
It's a strong one.
Yeah, David Hockney there. Never shuts up about his team, Nat Queen Cole, because that's the team that won him it in season 3. Anybody internally will know that David's never shut up about that team name. What other ones have we got? The most tragic team name, I have to call him out on this one. Ryan Dalglish's team name is Hire Me Steven. And poor Ryan went through the recruitment process. And this was nothing to do with the team name. I really like Ryan. It just didn't really work out. But yeah, he gets absolutely ripped for that now. It's like, not the fact that he picked first and had an absolute howler. But there's some classic names that have stayed throughout the test of time. There's Team GOAT with David Campbell, and of course there's Team Viscera with Gary Kernan. Some favourites of the draft.
So outside of the draft, then, like I said, you built a strong team, and it's really a community in itself now. You're bringing in folk just for seems like just out of circumstance a lot of the time. It's just like, oh, he likes wrestling. Can you speak for a bit? Aye. Well, we'll get you on for a show. We'll see how it goes. Take it from there. But no, you've really built a nice little community of just wrestling fans. And for my brief time after joining in the group chat, the main, well, if it's the main one, or I've just been relegated to one where they're just being nice to me. But it seems like a really nice atmosphere where you can speak about just about any wrestling. Was it very important to you that when you're getting people on board, they did have a mix of experience? Because I've got, off the top of my head, we've got like Stacey's a bit of a newer fan, and then you've got guys like Grant who's New Japan and a bit more niche stuff. So was that important, or did that just seem to happen?
It was quite important initially. I didn't want to kind of have a catchment to it. I had some people told me to start with is like, why don't you maybe just focus on one particular area? And it was a bit one because Scottish scene, one, wasn't as familiar, and two, you were obviously doing your thing at that particular point in time. So I feel like I wasn't going to give it justice. I could have just went WWE to start with, but I kind of would, in the same way, feel like there's probably going to be a point where you're kind of limited a wee bit. So I kind of like the idea of wrestling itself is a niche, as you know, Billy. So it's kind of difficult to kind of go niche within niche at times, I feel, unless you're really confident with it. And I feel like I'm a bit of a jack of all trades anyway. I don't really feel like I'm fully on one side of things. I mean, everybody says I'm a bit of a WWE mark, but I'm currently wearing an American Dragon t-shirt. So I like to cover all the bases, and I feel that's quite important sometimes to maybe get a bit more of an audience, especially when you're just starting off, because if you're more confident and you've got all those names in to kind of cover you can do a lot more in terms of your discussions. And I sometimes quite like if you run a show on a certain subject and you maybe get somebody who's maybe not in their strength, and you're kind of listening and you can kind of see you can hear the kind of the brain ticking as they're talking, and they kind of start to get into it, and then they become invested into something like that. Stacey's a great example. Everybody loves Stacey in the show because Stacey just makes wrestling fun when you listen to her talk about anything. And sometimes when she's talking about something, maybe she may be at a bit of a depth, but she will get into it. And then sometimes when she kind of likes into something, you can hear the excitement in her voice, and it's something like that really radiates, I think, with listeners, that you just have that type of thing with it. And I just think it helps kind of build the discussion and help build the knowledge of the team in general, because if you have somebody who knows, if you have at least maybe one or two people know about something, they kind of talk about it a lot when you're on other shows, it'll eventually feed into you, and then you kind of build on it, and it just all this overall makes just better analysis, I think, of whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, in that example, in that kind of vein, one of the most recent episodes of my podcast, I did a Wrestle Ropes one. I had my wife on, and because we went to a show the night before, and it's one of the most listened to ones that I've put out on the audio, because I think it's not more of a case of I think after about 120 odd audio things with my voice in it, people can't get fed up of it. But to have her on, and she was so excited to speak about it, and she wanted to be on, and she's got a different viewpoint. She doesn't like watching wrestling on the TV. She likes to see it live. So that's her vocal, her vantage point of wrestling. So it brings that new level of excitement and like I say, the team that you've got. I mean, I was on the Paige and AJ Lee episode, and I jumped on because that was the first spot that was available. And then as soon as I went, I'll do it, I went, oh God, I can't remember anything about Paige and AJ Lee. So I had to go and do a bit of research and find out and try and remember 2011.
We've had some interesting ones where we've done a subject just pure. That wasn't one we just done pure for the sake of it, but you kind of jumped on, you weren't too sure about it. This is kind of similar, but a wee bit more, a bit differently. back in one of our early shows, it was show number 8. Right, it was a common thing internally with us at this point that David Hockney really hated and still hates Jinder Mahal. Despised Jinder Mahal or being WWE champion. Would rant about it so much it was unreal. So I thought, okay, why don't we do a show about 3MB? Purely because I wanted to get to the point where Dave reacted. Also, to be fair, Drew just came back. He was just in NXT, so it kind of worked quite well with that one. And this was the first show I got Strack on. And Strack kind of said, because Strack trained with Drew at one point. Strack he was a wrestler back in about a decade or so ago, and he does know Drew. So I was like, you know Drew, right? Aye, come on, aye, sure. And Strack had never been on one of these podcasts, and he was we got him on just purely for Dave's rant. And I remember looking across the table, and Strack's face is just like, whoa, man, what the hell have I walked into? But from a listener's point of view, if you listen to it, it was a great thing to kind of listen to. It was just like getting genuine reactions. Sometimes it's just because I after a few episodes, I got a great feel because I host a lot of the early ones. I don't host as many now as I used to, but I would get a great feel for all my panelists and just try to tap into exactly what would get them reacting, what we kind of get them going. Sadly for Dave was a lot to target early doors because I knew Dave was best at everybody. And by God, the pacing that boy got in the first 100 episodes was unreal. But just getting some of the stories you heard from people was great. It was one episode where Josh Holm said a story about doing wrestling on his bed, and he broke the bed and never replaced the bed. So it's just like, you still have this bed? He's like, yeah, I've still got the bed. And you're in your head just like, did he really break his bed with wrestling? And it's like, but it was a recurring gag. I started calling the Broken Bed Bandit for about 3 months. Just get into it. It was, and it was. You just get great banter back and forward, everything, you know. And the guys who it was banter when they would enjoy it, and that would kind of break the ice a wee bit, and then you would just get a really fun discussion with that one, which was great. Oh, John, no.
So
you spelled chat wrong.
The women's charm is here. Sarah joining the chat here. So again, back to the start. Like I say, I'm terrible at keeping it structured when I get further in. But why Eddie Guerrero? Why was that? Why was it him as your first episode? Why did you want to focus on Eddie Guerrero?
We actually did back when we were a blog. We did a lot of what if articles. There was a lot of ones like I think one of the examples is there was ones like, what if John Cena had won the Intercontinental Champion type thing, and the most read one that we had was what if Eddie Guerrero was still alive? What would have happened? And that was one of the more ones. So I kind of thought, like, that's a good topic. We've kind of built the base on that one. Let's throw in and start with that particular one. So that's why we kind of went with the Eddie Guerrero one. And then after that, we kind of we had a few broad ones after that as well, just to kind of make it a bit less narrow in terms of things. We did wrestling stables after that. We did wrestling games, and we did dream matches. So we tried to kind of... The hardest thing we had to start with was we want to do topics that there may be areas of what we talk about that you can then expand on, but we didn't want to kind of repeat it. We had a few really bad examples. We did that. We did an Undertaker gimmick match to start with, and it was kind of repetitive on some of the other stuff we kind of mentioned. So that's what I felt has always been one of the hardest things at times, doing a panel discussion show all the time. Because when you do weekly news, it's easy because it's the week's worth of news. You know, if you're doing interviews, you base it on the person obviously you're talking to. But for panel discussions, it's like, it's a topic. It can be past, present, or future, but you need to kind of keep it fresh and not kind of do too much of a concept. We do have a lot of concepts we do, but that was one of the things I found the hardest. I never liked initially wanting to do previews or reviews. I tried to keep them very minimal. We now have our central news show, which is a lot heavy on previews and reviews, but that's based on that. I like to keep the feature stuff. I tried to keep it as away from that as possible. I swayed on doing big show preview reviews eventually. But to begin with, I was very much against doing that because I thought everybody does previews and reviews. You know, I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to do something a bit different. And a lot of the early stuff, a lot of the stuff we do is you don't really hear the type of stuff everybody else. The draft's a great example. Nobody ever comes up with the draft.
So Daniel Campbell asked a perfect question because it's ties in well. Whose idea was it to introduce quizzes into the catalogue of ESSR shows?
Was it Dave? Was it Dave? Maybe, I don't know. Dave hosted the first one, the infamous WrestleMania 2018 quiz, where I botched. Everybody want to hear about it. I'm going to say it. There was a question. Dave had a round on it. You probably heard the story, Billy, where he asked. He came up with wrestlers' real names and it's like, who's the wrestler? And the last one, I was absolutely clueless. I'm terrible at these things. And the last one was Alan Jones, and I had a complete mind block. And it's so obvious, obviously, it's AJ Styles. I had a complete mind block, and I thought, right, just put a name down. Just put a name down. And in my stupidity, I put John Cena down. And it's like, why did I put John Cena down? John Cena's name? And I get called out on it. I get slaughtered for it. Still get slaughtered for it for this day. Got voted the most memorable moment of our first year and the first anniversary show. It was bad, but yeah, the quiz idea. Obviously, Daniel would ask it. He obviously does the quiz showdown stuff now. He's took the quizzes stuff to the next level. But I think Dave maybe suggested that hosting the first one. I can't remember because he was quite keen on it, and that first one went down really well. I mean, the botch aside, it was there was a lot of memorable moments in that particular show. That was the show as well. Dave asked us one of the sites that hosted WrestleMania 2. I asked the three sites hosted WrestleMania 2, and we all said New York. And he said, no, we're all wrong. It's Uniondale. And we were like, that isn't New York. He went, no, it's only Uniondale. It's like, Dave, it's still New York. It's a part of, it's inside you. It's like, no, you're not getting the back for it. It's like, oh, Jesus. But anyway, it just brought so many memorable moments at a lot of our expenses. We thought, we'll do a lot more of these quizzes again. So we did, I'm trying to remember some of the ones we did after that. We did the SummerSlam quiz. It was a bit more chaotic. We did the Fear and Loathing quiz in 2018, where I infamously came into the quiz boasting, I write about ICW for Glasgow Live. I'm going to romp this quiz. I think I came third. Or I maybe just came second. I don't really know. Stacey wiped the floor with me in that particular quiz. She actually plays an absolute blinder in it. We did Ross introduced the Royal Rumble quiz after that as well, which is I think it's a great concept that he brought into it. It was kind of like an 8-person quiz, and every round somebody gets eliminated, and then you go down to 2. It's just thinking back on it. A lot of our quizzes have had so many of the great moments. Yes, Sarah, it was amazing. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of our great moments have came in quizzes. The Royal Rumble first quiz was the one where infamously Scott, who's a massive Kane fan, got the amount of eliminations that Kane has had in Royal Rumbles wrong to hand David Hockney the quiz win, which was hilarious at the time in that one. David beat Scott 2 quizzes in a row. You'd never know that these days. Yeah, the other one we also did was the Attitude Era quiz that I hosted, where this is one of my proudest moments as a host, that we did this quiz just after the podcast that Jericho did with Moxley. I don't know if you remember listening to it. See the one where Moxley's it's one of his first ones after leaving WWE, and he mentions a lot about being depressed and that type of stuff. And there was a bit, he goes, I was dead depressed, and then Jericho just jumps into a random ad for steaks.
Yeah, I remember that clip. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm going to do absolute piss takes of these adverts. So I did one on Hockney's Hoagie House. I did Roscoe Dating Service, I think it was. Shettleston Steaks was the one I did for Scotland. And I did Campbell's Posh Boy Prep, I think, as he's like ripped the piss sponsors, but I couldn't even focus on the quiz half the time. I had to you have Kwaku next to me, and you obviously know Kwaku. When he gets laughing, and it's hard. But I thought quizzes were some great moments, and that's what we did. I thought it was when we did the pandemic, it was a good time to move it away from the main feed onto YouTube, and Daniel does a great job out on YouTube now, so it's perfectly placed on the Quiz Showdown theme on that one. But in terms of the actual podcast feed, it's early doors anyway. It brought some of the funniest moments we ever produced, I think.
So just in case he's watching, John Felix Anthony Cena, that is I know your whole name. Don't worry about it. I've read Wikipedia. So David Hockney mentioned Hoagie House as well. Sorry, Hockney House, I suppose. There it is for those that are video feed. Wow.
I can't even remember. I can't remember exactly. I think it came about because we had a discussion that he didn't know about the Scottish version of the hoagie because he'd been to the States, and obviously the States version is the big sub sandwich. And we were I think somebody was like, I got a hoagie delivered last night, and obviously the British Scottish hoagie is like the Indian stuff with the doner meat and the chips and all that. And he's like, I got a hoagie when I was in America. And it's like, what was that? It's a big sub. And I was like, you don't know what a hoagie is, do you? He's like, no. And it's like, this is what a hoagie is. And it's just like, oh, that's where I came about it from. I've got too many ripped the mix out of Dave. I feel bad. I don't know why he's still my friend. He's one of my groomsmen at the wedding. I don't really know why he still hangs about with me.
Any particular favourite intros that either you've written and done or been given by someone else?
There's been loads about me punching. I get called the bruiserweight and punching above my weight one time, which I found particularly hilarious. What's some of the best ones I've given? I called Dave. I've called Dave so many. I called him the modern day Maharaja. What else did I call him? He works for Clydesdale Bank, so I called him Mr. Money in the Clydesdale Bank. There was the one time that me and Sarah convoluted to give him an intro in a style of a wrestler who can no longer be named Billy, but he had a very long-winded intro. I think you maybe know who I'm talking about.
Oh, I was going to say, there's a long list. I was trying to think, right, who it could have been. I'm with you now.
He had several bits of his intro, but
he had several bits somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Very badly wanted. But we did that in a style for Dave. Was it the I can't even remember. There was some of them. I've not listened to it so long, but there's been some funny ones delivered. Tinder Mahal. There's so many. Yes, there's another one from Sarah. Scott being the unnecessary sequel.
I remember that one. I don't know what episode it was on, but that one pops in my head every so often.
There was one. The first anniversary show I delivered some absolute belters. I've got absolutely some great ones on that one. One episode I called Derek the disgrace of my family, and he was not happy. He went absolutely. He was he like threw himself across the table at me. Yes, Kwaku being compared to the hat worn by the mother of the bride, because it just gets passed about the whole place. Was it the Ross did a great one on Kwaku where he called him, where he said, if you're looking for Milkomania 2, you'll be disappointed because Kwaku's lactose intolerant. Poultry Pumper, yes. One of Jack's very early shows, he get called the Poultry Pumper. So many.
Yeah, I've been lucky that I haven't had any yet. But
Billy, we settle people in. The first intro is always a nice one, and then we absolutely settle everybody in. It's just like gets. I don't remember why I did it the first anniversary show. The second anniversary show I did a good one because I was so savage in the first one. The second anniversary I decided I was going to flip it, and I was really nice to everybody, and they're all looking across the table going, "What is going on here? This is not right." It's just like I gave everybody the nicest intro, like this person's grown so much in the last 2 years. This person's the greatest. This person's one of my best friends, and they're all like, "No. What's going on? No, this is weird."
Where's the punchline coming from? Where is it? Yeah. So how ESSR Championship? That's my next bullet point I've got here. So
yes.
How did that come about?
Yes, that came about. Right, so it was based around about the Christmas New Year time when we first started in 2017. Just before it, obviously, it was Christmas night out season and Secret Santa in the works. My work, Secret Santa, got me one of those sticker fake WWE types. Essentially, kids DIY WWE titles, and I thought this is quite cool. So we were on to these recording, and we essentially did two back to back on the one day. We did this one big record on just before Christmas so we could put a couple of ones out. It was the best of 2017 and the 2018 preview. And I decided for a laugh, I'm like, I need to use this title because I'm not going to have it sitting about my house. My missus will absolutely hate it and she'll eventually chuck it out. So I'm like, I'm going to use this title for a laugh. So I brought the title in. And I'm like, I'm going to give someone this championship. And I decided I'm going to give this to the guy who's done the funniest thing that we've done so far on the podcast. Gave it to Dave for his gender rant because I had to give it to Dave. And it came about to there. And then a couple of months later, Ross started internally doing sweepstakes for the pay-per-views. And that's where we kind of decided we should get this title and actually, keep it going. We can't just have Dave having this kind of fakey title. So we kept this title going just from the sweeps and quizzes. And it would get defended, and we brought various concepts into it. A lot of these aren't mine. I credit a lot of the members of the pods for this one. We did our version of Money in the Bank, which was spare change in the tin, which we used to do, we used to do it on the square goal. Say that whoever wins, everybody would get a number for the square goal, whoever's number got it would be the spare change in the tin. And we also got, and then, what's the other concept? We had a couple other ones. The spare change in the tin was the main one. Spare change in the tin brought some great moments on the podcast history as well, which I'll go into in a wee second. And then, round about the first anniversary showtime, Kwaku and Strack kind of worked together to bring a vamped version of the belt together. So on the first anniversary show, just before it, Kwaku's like, I'm working on something with Strack for the anniversary show. I'm like, all right, cool, that's great. And then after the speeches, Kwaku starts talking about stuff, and then he goes to Strack. I've got Strack this, and Strack pulls out this title with ESSR stickers on the plates, and it's just like, that's quite cool. But it's just a wee bit of a laugh for something internally. And sometimes when it leads into other moments, it's quite great because the spare change in the tin moments that we've had have been absolutely fantastic for comedy relief. There's been two ones in particular. The first one was in 2019, not 2018. Either way, it was on the, I think it was 2019. It was the greatest NXT takeover shows that we did. And David Campbell was holding the spare change in the tin at that point in time. And Scott was the champion. So both of these are at Scott's expense, poor Scott. So I find this really funny because Scott was in my work because he was doing journalism at the time. He was doing a day's work experience. And he goes down to the vending machine during the day, buys a pack of sweets, and he goes, this is for me and David Campbell during the show. Unbeknownst to him, Campbell messaged me like 2 days earlier going, I'm cashing in on Scott, screw it. So I'm sitting in this work laughing. It's like, oh, he doesn't know what's going on. So the show comes in. David Campbell, as you know, he's absolute comic value with this type of stuff. He brings in bottles of Schlur. For him and Scott. So him and Scott are sitting, right? He's giving Scott Schlur. Scott doesn't know what's going on. They're having a great time. And then after the show, he just comes out with this big rant. And he goes, I'm cashing in. And what's funny is we had this internal thing, we had this internal joke stable for the first year. It was called Roscoe, led by Ross. And it was this whole thing of this. So he just comes out one time and just goes, Daniel says, it's in the opening package for Quiz Showdown Goes Hollywood. And he just goes, I am doing this and I'm forming my own stable. The Goatsmen, the 4 Goatsmen. Anyway, cashes in, beats Scott. It's hilarious. Then,
I think I know what the second one is because it was one of my favorite ESSR moments. And it's Sarah, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, that is so funny. That was even more evil. It was me, Strack, Scott, and Kwaku that were on the show. We were doing it on the X Division. And I think she'd kind of mentioned, maybe I'm going to cash in. And I think she said, I'm thinking about cashing in. Right, okay, fine enough. And whilst we are recording the show, we were in Glasgow Cali radio station at this point in time, and she's kind of there, and the way the kind of Cali studio was worked, or the way the union worked was at the time was, it probably still is, I've not been in a while, they had a big bar area, and the radio station, you could see the bar area through the window, so she couldn't come in and really sit in the bar area because when we were sitting there you could see everything. So what she did for the first half of the show, because we took a break in the middle of recording the first half of the show, Sarah was sitting in the disabled toilets standing in the disabled. And we're like, why are you in the disabled toilet? It's like, well, if he comes out and goes to the toilet, he might see me. I'm like, so yeah, she's in the disabled toilets. And then eventually for the second half of the show, because their studio was kind of like every radio station, there was the main bit where the recording bit was happening, it had a bit of an annex in the middle, and there was a window between it. So she kind of crawls in, and she's kind of hiding under the window because otherwise he'd be able to see her. So she comes out, she brings a cake. This is the evilness of this one. It's Scott's birthday. She brings a cake. So at the end of the recording, I get up off my seat, open the door, and I let her in because we had the title. No, I thought you were in the disabled. I'm sure you're in the disabled, Sarah. Either way, she comes in with the cake, and Scott's face is like, oh no. And she's just like, happy birthday. It's like, it was just as sinister as when CM Punk came out and said happy birthday to Aliyah Mysterio. It had that sort of sinister aspect to it. But, she cashed it in on him. Oh, it was amazing. It's great listening and great viewing. It was just like, in a way, you're just like, why? Because she was in Edinburgh. She's lived in Edinburgh at this point. She lives in Cambuslang now, but at that point she lived in Edinburgh. She wasn't on the show. She took an hour train, hid in the toilet for half an hour, and then did that just for that one moment. But it was priceless.
That's commitment. That's just commitment to the victory. But no, Scott's throwing in comments there. Yep. It's an amazing moment, and as Ross pointed out, that Scott's been cashing on twice, and it was him that created the concept. So we've got Daniel putting maybe another Iron Man match. So you recently just did that 30-minute quiz showdown Iron Man.
We've done 2 Iron Man matches on the quiz showdown format, both featuring Scott. That one he was against David. The first one he was against David Campbell. He challenged him on his. I don't know who that comment says. I addressed that, Ross. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know what he's talking about. So, and the first one was against David Campbell in a movie trivia quiz. They've produced some great moments. A great thing about them, a lot of them have come into their own since they've done the podcast. I mean, I'll go back to David Campbell. He's a great example, I've said of this one. When anybody who knows him, listening to a podcast will not believe me. The first time I met David Campbell, he was shy. He was not very outgoing. He was very shy. Now, anybody who knows him, he just talks and talks and talks and talks. He does his own podcast. He's on the First Time League, talking about doing questions about movies and TV. Fair enough. It's fair enough, Sarah. So he does all that stuff, but he was very quiet when he first came in. There was a bunch of other ones as well, I think, that were pretty shy as well. And a lot of them just come into their own and just do their own things. I mean, they come up with their ideas when internally they come up with all these things on the podcast. Scott as well. Scott was quite shy as well to start with, but he's done. As you know now, Billy, he's a bit of an egotistical bugger these days.
I've noticed in the wee group chat he's got some opinions that hopefully if I'm on the next quiz showdown, I might be able to knock him down a peg or two. I doubt it. I have a terrible memory, but I will definitely give him my best.
Oh, please do. Please do. We could do with it.
So outside of that, then we'll discuss the panels at length and the team dynamic and setup that you got, but we've also got interviews. So this is how I kind of got into listening to ESSR. So of course you did the panel shows, and there's always a worry of them being a bit like you're saying, it could be oversaturated podcasts if you're doing one subject or what have you. But so I was into the interviews because you're just interviewing Scottish talent, which I'm a big nerd for that stuff. How did you decide? Did you just decide, right, I've got the opportunity to interview someone, let's just add it to the feed? How did interviewing come about for the show?
Initially, it kind of came about jointly through my work. As you may know, Billy, my work is the same work as Daily Record, Glasgow Live. That's my day job. And Glasgow Live, one day I asked the editor of Glasgow Live, like, look, I'm really into wrestling. All this wrestling stuff goes on. Do you want somebody to write about it? And he was like, yeah, I've always wanted to write about this one, but I don't have anybody who knows enough about it. So that's how I came about with it. And it was roughly, we kind of started roughly around about the time of Fear and Loathing 2017. So I kind of started talking to the ICWPR guys and that type of stuff. And eventually I got a few interviews through that. But it gave me a bit of taste for it. And I was like, we were kind of like, well, you know, we should probably try to do a lot more of these ones. So we got it through a mixture of kind of just going to talent ourselves. Internally, we would come up like, right, who should we kind of start talking to? Who's the best guys to try and get in touch with? And then there was the other bunch of ones that we got opportunities from via PR relationships through my work. So some examples of that where we interviewed Kaylee Ray when she was with World of Sport. That actually came about through ITV. So that wasn't when we got with Kaylee Ray herself. That was actually, so if you listen back to that interview, it's very much oriented to Kaylee Ray's spell when she was at World of Sport. Obviously, if you spoke to Kaylee now, it'd be a completely different kettle of fish. Other ones that we kind of got through that medium, Viper, Piper Niven, Doudrop came about via a PR opportunity. Interviewed Lionheart, God rest his soul, a couple of times via that method as well. Just a few guys that you got initially kind of pitched via these PRs, but there's a lot of guys you just kind of started, you message yourself. You've done it probably yourself, Billy. You just message guys and you just be kind of like chancing it. I mean, some of the ones we've got absolute chance were absolutely mental. I sent a Facebook DM to Al Snow and he got back to me, which was this was a mental one as well. I arranged for Ross to do this interview with Al Snow just before WrestleMania in 2019. And one day I'm in my work and I get a Facebook call from Al Snow. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I can answer the phone. I'm like, hello. He's like, hello, this is Al Snow. Your colleague Ross is meant to be getting in touch with me, but he's not getting back to us. Like, all right, hold on, Al. I'll message him the noon. All right, okay, thanks. And I have to message Ross going, mate, Al Snow's phoning me. What's going on? He's like, oh, he was meant to send me his number. He's not sent me it yet. I was like, oh, shit. So it's just stuff like that. It's just, you get a lot of them just out of an absolute whim. But some of the ones I had some great times doing a lot of these interviews. Stevie Boy is one of my favourite ones. I loved interviewing Stevie Boy. He was a really good chat. I got one of the first ones with him after they won the ICW World title. Dropped him a Facebook. I dropped him a Twitter message going, "Can I get your first interview after winning the title?" And he's like, I need to double check. And then eventually I got it. So I was really happy with that one. I got what's some of the ones I liked. I'm talking more about the ones I did. Still got Ross was also for many years saying he was very good friends with Red Lightning. He really liked in that one. I'm trying to remember some ones we got. A really random one. I got PCO. That was a really random one. I think he added the podcast on Twitter. We just messaged him going, right. Do you want to do this? So it's just anytime we got a random follow from a guys, I was just like interview, and that's how we got a lot of these ones. I'm trying to remember some of the ones I did that were really fun. I like that. I did one with DCT. Don't know if you talked to him before, Billy. Beat DCT.
Not yet. No.
He's I'll drop him. I'll DM him for you. Don't worry. DCT was I interviewed DCT twice as well. I interviewed him one time, then after he won the ICW title. But the first time, just met him randomly in like not a Spoons. It's like it's like that type of family restaurant thing. They're usually at the motorway things. But yeah, did stuff with him. But a lot of the ones, some of the best interviews are ones not done by me. I've done a lot of the ones kind of with the WWE type of name ones, but a lot of the guys, not me, have done some fantastic interviews across the podcast. Kwaku did one with he did one with the Leighton Buzzards that was really good back in the day. Sarah's done a couple of really good ones. She's done the ones with she had one with Modern Hype, obviously back in the day. A really good one there. Emily Hayden, she had some good ones with her. Sam Barber one very early on was brilliant. Alan did one with Simon Cassidy. I think it's his only one to date. Really enjoyed that one. I mentioned Ross's one with Red Lightning. He did one also with TK Cooper. Did one with Adam Maxted as well, where he got him to say a birthday wish for Sarah. No, not Sarah, sorry, Stacey. Which was really good of him. Derek did Ashton Smith. Great guy, Ashton Smith. Told Ashton Smith that his niece, Gary's daughter Lucy, was a big fan. So he sent a t-shirt for her which I thought was a really cool gesture from him. One of the chaotic ones you'll probably remember as well, Billy, was Scott's interview with the Fight Network, obviously, no, whatever they're called now, Looking Sharp and
I think this is where I first heard the 2 sheep versus 1 cow question.
Yes, that is exactly the one. That was absolutely nuts.
Which I have inexplicably stolen since.
It's so random. It's so random, but it's just like, fair play. And the last one I did before the pandemic's one I'm really proud of as well, is given the direction she's went in her career as well. Thunder Rosa is a really good one. I think I interviewed her just after she won the NWA Women's title. And it was 2 weeks before the pandemic, before lockdown. Obviously, I didn't know we were going to go lockdown, but then she showed up at AEW 6 months later. I was like, oh my God, I interviewed her. Scott interviewed Ricky Starks as well when he was in NWA. And then Ricky Starks shows up in AEW. It's like, oh my God, we interviewed him. And then all these big media guys started got interviews with Ricky Starks like 6 months later, and he was putting out all these quotes, and I'm sitting there going, Scott got that off him like 2 years ago. Nobody says anything. It's like, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating when you get a good line of it, but see, because we're quite further down the media poll, you're like, no, sometimes it's so hard to get your quotes out there, because we get some absolute belters, you yourself as well, get some great quotes.
That's the thing. I mean, like, we're speaking about guests, I've had a lot, not so much knockbacks, more like just plain ghosting from a lot of times, but Joe Hendry Joe Hendry I got eventually, and he was speaking about I wish I actually took the time to actually transcript, because that should have been the one I should have transcript, because he was going on about his body transformation and how he's going to come back bigger, badder, stronger, and then 3-4 months later he revealed Joe the answer, and I was looking at it going, told me all this, why didn't nobody pick this up? But it's more down to me sharing it. I suppose at the end of the day, it's finding out that balance of how to share it, where to share it, who to pick it up, and sometimes it's just plain luck.
It's luck. I asked Drew McIntyre a couple of questions when he was in Glasgow. I got invited to the media day, and I took out the portion that I asked him, put it on the podcast feed, and then I get all the alerts. I get Google alerts for when people search each Suplex retweet, just out of nosiness, and sometimes eventually they come up and it goes, Fightful, all these type of places, Drew McIntyre interview, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what he said to me. It's amazing. I was looking through it going, then I felt really bad. I had to message one of them because they put the link through quote to the wrong place, and I'm like, hey, sorry, thanks for taking the interview, it's going to the wrong place.
I know. I was only just brand new in the team, and I saw someone quoting it but not putting the source. And I was like, "Hello, excuse me, sir. This is where it's from. Here's the link. Go."
Yes, exactly. That's just good quality journalism. That's just standard practice.
Has there been a guest though that you've been? I suppose Drew probably been one of them that you've been absolutely starstruck to meet, and you've been like, I don't know how to speak. I suppose getting a Facebook call from Al Snow might be up there, but is there anyone that you've been properly starstruck to interact with?
There's been a couple. When I first spoke to Lionheart, I found that I was a bit nervous because it was the first one I'd ever done on the phone, and I didn't really know how to properly do the equipment, so I got some stuff through my work, and I'm pure like I've got the phone and the dictaphone connected, and I'm pure panicking about my questions. But yeah, I felt quite starstruck by him. Second time I interviewed him, I interviewed him in person the second time, and I felt a bit with that one. Most of the ones I'm okay with, to be fair. I get nervous the first few ones, obviously I've never done it, but see when you got in the role of it, I felt quite all right with it. I don't think I've personally spoke to somebody a massive name in it. Drew was I found a bit tricky because I was in a group of other people who probably do these more than me. Grado was there, guys from Inside the Ropes were there, so they're more accustomed to these things, a lot confident. I was kind of sitting in the back, and I'm kind of like, right, don't ask him. And it was around in an order, so it was kind of like a couple of guys before had asked the questions. I quite liked to answer them, so I was kind of like, right, I need to kind of think on my feet. But these ones, whilst if you're just on the calls, just you you've got the floor, you can do everything. So you're just kind of just go with it and run with it. But I always, sometimes to start with, I find that a bit nerve-wracking because you don't really know the person as much. So you're just trying to get a feel for them. But once you obviously get in the flow and the conversation goes, you get a lot of them that you just hit it off with very easily. Liam Thompson. I interviewed Liam Thompson. He is a fantastic guy to talk to because he could just talk and talk and talk. Because he went on a tangent about one thing, I think about his dog when I spoke to him. And I'm just like, he just started going off in tangents. And I'm like, this is great. But I've only asked you 3 questions I wanted to ask you. Come on, let's get going. He was one I really enjoyed, actually, just because of how easygoing he was.
That's the thing. I mean, my example of that is either Scotty Swift, because I've spoken to him for hours now, or Johnny Lyons. I think I came in with maybe 3 lines of notes because I didn't think I needed any, because I knew Johnny Lyons would just go as soon as I asked a question and be like, cool, right, I'll sit back. Just you go, Johnny. I'll just have a nap. Don't you worry about it. So it's one of those things. But that's the advantage of, I suppose, having such a wide variety of subjects and like say, panel shows are a bit of everything, and you're able to get an Al Snow or contact someone from an NWA and get them in, because you're not in one particular mold. You're not like just concentrated on one particular. I mean, like you say, wrestling is a niche, and then when you do something like I'm doing, it's a niche within that niche. And if you're doing a particular subject, then that just dilutes it. That makes it even more difficult to. Because I mean, I could probably go, right, I'll get someone who's never wrestled in Scotland, but what's the point? It's not part of my subject. So it's one of those weird things. Speaking of, I ended up in a conversation with Jeff Jarrett, and it hasn't went anywhere, but I was like, you know what? He's wrestled in Scotland 3 times. That'll qualify him. That's fine. That's enough for me. That'll qualify him. It'll be okay. I'm trying to do gymnastics in my head, going, yeah, that's enough for me to include him. It's one of those things. But so we've spoken about the championship, spoken about the panel show, spoken about the interviews. I just want to briefly talk about Kwaku on a pole, because I feel like it needs to be talked about. If we're doing a 4-year celebration of ESSR, we can't not mention Kwaku on a pole.
It's been that long since the campaign began. I can't remember exactly how it started.
Opinions, any particular who should be fighting over Kwaku on this poll? And
I'm sure Emily Hayden was very keen on it at one point in time. Aspen Faith, I think, was quite keen on getting him on the poll. I'm sure if you speak to ADM, he would be very happy for this particular match to happen. Thing is, when we first started, when it first came up, Kwaku was, he was mainly just a fan and a producer, and now obviously he's one of the main ring announcers for the Central Belt. So I'm sure there's probably a bigger queue now for that particular accolade. I think to get him on the pole, he's got a few. I think a few fans would love to wrestle for the chance to get Kwaku on a pole. I was at Discovery with him, and he was getting everybody speaking to him after the shows. Wanting to. I was a guy who was really keen on taking Kwaku for a beer after Discovery. Very, very keen. This is the same guy who paid money to get a chop off of Gene Money, Session Moth, and Ian Skinner. He looked very red raw.
Wrestling fans, they're an interesting breed. If I'm sure anyone's listening or watching has went to a wrestling show, they'll know that there's some wrestling fans that are interesting.
But for the pole aspect, we could make it a bit different. We could go like Judy Bagwell on a forklift type match. We can do something like that. If he's not keen on balancing on a pole, there's other aspects we could do of it. We could put him in one of the shark cages. It could be anything. Yeah, exactly.
You could get him in Discovery, and they've got a balcony. Just have him on the balcony. You have to just wrestle up to the balcony. That's it, done. There's ways and means to do these things. We had to mention Kwaku in the poll. Had to be done.
Oh, of course.
So we mentioned all the positive stuff. Got to do a little bit of the negative stuff, I suppose. Now we can speak about more fun stuff. Has there been any particular episodes or even guests that you've had on that have been like, this isn't our best work? You don't have to name them, in case any backlash there. But is there any particular moments you're like,
No,
this hasn't worked at all.
There's been a few. I'd be lying if I said everything was perfect, Billy. You know, I'd be pretty much, absolutely. There's a few ones, if I look back on it, yeah, I would love to change parts of it. Second anniversary one's particular one I look back on, I'm not particularly as happy with. More because I thought the first one was absolutely spot on, but I tried to run a debating chamber show about debating chamber aspect on that one, and there was about 12 people in the room at that point, so it was just like rawr, 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 rawr. It was just a shout fest, and it was messy to listen to. It wasn't particularly our best work on that one. I mean, a lot of the shows I think we run are actually not too bad. I'm going to be brutally honest. I make mistakes, and there's other mistakes I made in terms of that. Guest wise, yes, we've had a few people we've interviewed. We interviewed somebody. Obviously, I'm not going to name them because I don't want to get absolutely ripped. But we interviewed somebody who was very, very hungover and very unenthusiastic to do the interview, and it doesn't turn out particularly well. Guest wise as well, I can't think more interviews off the top of my head in terms of that. I'm just trying to remember. A lot of the guys I've interviewed are pretty worth sound, to be fair. A lot of them are really spot on. Can't really think much else faults. Guest wise, we've had a few guests. We have had a few people on who have been silent guests, I think is the best way to put them, Billy. They're kind of there, but they're not there. You kind of feel like you bring them in one time and they kind of, you're like, right. There's a lot of ones we brought in one time, a couple of times, and they've been pretty decent. You know, they've done a great job. But we had a few ones that they just absolutely said nothing, and you're just kind of like, why are we even here? You know, you've brought nothing to this particular show, and that's why said people have never been back again. There's a couple of shows I think where the are you familiar with the micro hosting term?
I think I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a couple of shows where some of the guests have been on, a couple of who have been on, have not been on as much. Oh, some guests, you know. I'm just going to say some guests. I'm going to open up to the floor. A lot of guests who micro hosted when they not need to micro hosted, and in some cases it's got quite tense in the studio for some aspects of it, and it doesn't create the best atmosphere. I mean, I'm going to say Dave Hockney again. Dave Hockney loves a micro host, but Dave does it in a way that's very innocent at times. But there's some in micro host, and you're just like, you've been here like twice. Why are you micro hosting? You know, you should not be getting involved in that particular one. But yeah, it's there is not many shows. I mean, I'm just trying to think back off the top of my head. There's not many shows that I look back on with regret, because I think so many of them have been very well done with. Especially kind of some of the subjects we kind of talked about at the time. We've done shows on mental health, done shows on social media. We're not kind of feared to push the boat a wee bit. We've done shows just with trainees, you know. So, yeah, I can't really. Yeah, I feel like I'm being very egotistical by saying there's not many shows I would hate. There's aspects of shows that I've hated, but in terms of overall shows, there's the majority of them I quite enjoyed, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've more the case of, for mine anyway. No guest has been bad. Like I said, there has been one or two that, one in our 100th episode, I said that I started asking a question to someone and they zoned out, and I could see them zone out, and I was just looking at going, you've literally zoned out in the middle of this question. And then there's other ones where before I did prep, I would zone out. Not a case of like I've just forgotten everything, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I haven't got anything to ask. I've forgotten every word that I was supposed to have in my head. So that's why I now have a notepad, and that's why I write everything down.
Oh, I notepad everything. I have it planned out. I'm really bad at interviews. I kind of go from like, I take it like career progression. Like I do it chronologically. It's like
I do that sometimes. If it's easy enough to find on Cage Match, I'll have like matches in month and year, so I've got a timeline. But sometimes it never works that way, and I end up just going talk about dinosaurs and all that shit.
Especially some of the guys you speak to, you know, they're a bit more niche than like, you know, like I did TJP one time. He's very easy to find on Cage Match and that, but.
Oh yeah, when I was speaking to like trainees and that, they haven't had any matches, and I'm like, oof, Okay, but sometimes that makes for the best conversations.
Yeah.
Outside of USSR, like I say, you're a big fan of pop culture. You've been very kind to send me pictures of your walls, which are always welcomed. Sounds weird out of context, but it's fine. So you're a big fan of Batman and MCU and what have you.
Oh yeah.
And what's it about Batman particularly? This is just absolutely derailed from ESSR. I just want to know about your love
Oh
for
no.
Batman.
I don't. I just. I went to see them when I was a kid, and just something where it stuck with me. I mean, everybody has a bad film that they love, right? It's just a thing. My bad film that I love is Batman and Robin. I know it's bad. I know it sucks, but it's one of the ones that if I feel like I'm having a bad day, I would stick it on. You know, I was on a pod. I was on a pod last year, and I literally come into the pod and I start doing Mr. Freeze quotes. Just firing them out, and it's just like. But I was mostly kind of because obviously when I was growing up, you know, the first Batman was out. They were out about the 90s and that type of stuff. I think somebody. I don't know if my mum got me or somebody gave me a copy of Batman Begins or Batman Returns. Sorry, I don't know why they were giving like a 5-year-old, 4-year-old kid a copy of that. It's quite dark, that one, that particular one. Yeah, and I just really liked it. I just got the characters on it. I faded, even though I faded away with it when I kind of watched the cartoony stuff as well. I was really into the likes of the Batman, Batman Beyond type stuff. I can't remember I don't think that's the right name for the thing for it, but it was kind of when the Dark Knight came out. And I went to see The Dark Knight, and it like rekindled my full thing with the Batman film. I still say it's the best. People will argue with me. I think it's the best film ever made. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I was sitting there in awe watching it, and then I just got back into watching it. And yeah, there's something. I hate Superman, I think, which helps the Batman thing. I think it's kind of like a side by side thing. It's like I really don't like Superman. I just think he's dull as anything. I think because Batman's the polar opposite really helps me. But no, it's just something that stuck with me. It's just a kind of the villains in it as well. I kind of thought the villains really kind of caught my eye and that type of stuff. The Riddler and that Mr. Freeze, you know, they're just well played. They're just well done characters, and just I think the Dark Knight's the one thing really keeps me going with it. I just keep going back to that film because it's just a masterpiece.
I've got the kind of same passion feelings for Spider-Man.
Oh, I like the Spider-Man early films. I thought that I have a current frustration that you may understand, Billy. That they've got Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 3 on Netflix. Spider-Man 2 is not in there.
Yes.
Spider-Man 2 is the best of the three. It's just it's amazing, especially because I've got my girlfriend. She's got into watching all these MCU stuff with me ever since it's been on Disney Plus, and it's great. And obviously the Spider-Man ones were the last ones we watched because they're not on Disney Plus because of the Sony deal. And then they recently put the 2 Tom Holland ones on Netflix, and I was like, right, we need to watch these because we've watched all the MCU series. We need to watch these 2. Me secretly because I'm dying. I really want to see the new one coming in December. And going through that, and I'm sitting, and she's like, right, do we need to watch the other ones first? I'm like, well, not particularly, no. We just watch these. In my head, I'm thinking, watching the trailer for the U one, I'm like, we really need to watch Spider-Man 2, or she's going to sit here and watch and going, who's that? What's his? Why is he there? What's this? And it's like, oh, he's in the one that we've not seen. He's in the middle one. He's in that one there. It's just so annoying. But I'm a mixed on Spider-Man early days. I quite liked the films. Wasn't big on Tobey Maguire. Wasn't big on Andrew Garfield stuff. But I think the MCU ones are amazing. I think they're
yeah, I loved them at the time, and then recently I went back. I've done the same. I went back to rewatch them, and when I was watching it, I was just like, "Oh, this is a bit rougher than I remember it being in 2002 when I was 12 watching this."
It's a good story. The stories in them good, but him playing it, I think Tom Holland plays it so well. I think that doesn't help him. I think Tom Holland's really he's got that childish nature to him that kind of brings you to him, and I think because they do the whole Iron Man, Spider-Man thing, I think really helps it. The story was.
I think the biggest like this isn't right is Flash Thompson in the first Spider-Man's with Tobey Maguire. It's played by Joe Manganiello, and you look at him and go, "You're not a teenager." No way in hell are you a teenager. Toby, all right, okay, I'll let that slide, but no, not Joel Manganiello.
Yeah,
No way.
babyface. Toby's very babyface with it. You know, he's quite. Everybody's associated with him. I mean, J. Jonah Jameson, whatever the heck he's. I can't. I was a bit tongue tied saying his name there, but yeah, he makes the films, and the fact he might be in the U one is even better.
Hey Adam, sorry. Hey Andy. Oh my God, we're doing well.
Andy.
So from it back to SSR, we've done a little detour into pop culture and comics because I will speak about that for hours. I might not know the subjects, but I'll still speak about it for hours. Pandemic hit last year, and it was quite a big thing. You know, still is, even though folk are saying it isn't. It's still out there. And of course, the podcast format, you were in the studio and you're speaking back and forth, and you had everyone about, and then that's kind of changed. So how did you guys adapt to Zoom? Did you, or Skype, or were you always kind of thinking, right, let's just plow ahead and do it and use things like StreamYard, what we're using just now, or was there a little bit of an adjustment period to figure out what you're going to do next?
Luckily, we had some Christian Bale's Batman would be amazing.
Toby Spider-Man.
But we'd done shows remotely before, you know, because we'd done the weekly release all the time in the studio, but there was some stuff we did periodically recording, WrestleMania in particular. So we had dabbled in it before. We had actually done our first remote recording was during the Beast from the East. We did a remote recording during that because we couldn't get to the studio because it was absolutely, you know, snowed like hell. So we just didn't bother. So we kind of knew what we were getting into in terms of how to work it, in terms of the software and that stuff. But I think the first 3 or so months or so of it in particular, I think there was a bit of internal kind of fatigue with the whole aspect of it, because I think going into, why are these two having a conversation? Text each other. I think there's a whole, I think going to the studio was a bit different because you're there once a week. You would get in, you would see people, you'd be out with your environment, and you were in that closed space and you were talking to it. But it was great because you kind of, the reactions were so great because you were all in the one room. Granted, you can see everybody via the Zoom and the Skype, but it was, to begin with, it was just not the same, and everybody was just stuck in the one room all the time. So to then go into a computer and still talk, you were still in the one place. It was just, I feel like, a bit meh. But I think the more other parts of the world grew, I think we eventually grew into it, and I think we kind of found the niche again. It was quite, in terms of working the software, the systems, it was definitely an easy transition. But I think mentally and morale-wise, it was a tough time because people will still say this now. I mean, people miss being in the studios, but it's a hard one because in the time since then, people's work arrangements have changed. People who were working in the town aren't working in town anymore. It's just more difficult now for people to get in. And of course, we have expanded with the likes of yourself up in Elgin. We've got Tom down in England. You know, it's just not feasible all the time. It just works better for everybody, I think, now, sadly.
Absolutely. I mean, the only downside then is just equipment and internet connections and all that jazz, which is...
we've had some horrendous internet connections.
I've had some episodes where I literally, Luke Ross being an episode that comes to mind, recorded for about an hour, and by the time I chopped out all the bits that we couldn't use because of internet connections, ended with 40 minutes. And yeah, it was so Andy's a fan of the Bring Back Studio Sessions, but no, I like, that's why I started the podcast anyway, because I'm up in Elgin, so I'm not like I'm going to be able to go to Spoons and interview Stevie Boy, for example, because that's just not feasible and able to do. But Zoom is, I can just do that, and then I can speak to people, and this is my social interaction with people. So that's the best thing about it. But getting to join you guys, that was the other thing as well, because then got more people to speak to about wrestling, and I don't have to deal with any of the recording or editing, or not that I edit much anyway, but it's just wonderful.
you need a few people who can do it. I mean, I can do it. You know, Scott can do it. Kwaku can do it. Ryan, whenever he's free, he's not free a lot. He's a busy guy with his radio stuff. He can do a lot of stuff. Chris is the same. I've got guys that can do it. That's the handy thing about it. There's a bit of a jack of all trade nature, and everybody can do one thing, which is good. Which is I think is handy.
So we've really covered a lot of the 4 years. But is there any particular episodes? I mean, you have mentioned episodes, of course, that have had moments that you thought of. But is there any particular ones? See if someone's come onto the SWN Facebook page and sees this and going, I've never listened to ESSR. What's an episode that comes to mind that gives you a good slice of what ESSR offers?
I would recommend. I mentioned it briefly earlier on, the Greatest Takeover shows show, the Greatest Takeover Matches show is a particularly good one. I was quite proud of that one. That was a bit more, I did it in a really funny way. I kind of told everybody, right, there's 25 takeovers at that point. Everybody pick a match from each takeover, and then I picked the most selected match from each of the takeovers and then said, right, rank these matches. And then do them. Best dressed in ESSR is... Oh, that's a question. Who's best? I would say Gary when he's in his work stuff. He's a very smart dude. The Kernhins, I'll give the Kernhins to that one. I'm going to be very, very brutal on that one. Sorry, guys. Worst dressed is probably me. I'm terribly dressed. Yeah. We did a very good season. We've done 3 great episodes on Glow, season 1, 2, and 3. I hosted one. I did it a bit differently. I kind of took the wrestling elements of it and then kind of worked with it. And then David Campbell hosts the next 2. He does it a very much film, TV critique very way. His 2 ones are much better than mine. I'm not going to blow his trumpet too much. His ones are really good. We have done it. There's a lot of stuff in the debating chamber, the first ever debating chamber. Go back and watch that. Go back and listen to that. It is a debate in the form of an elimination chamber. 2 people start. You were suave, but you were too much Adidas Quack. That's your problem. So 2 people start, and then every 5 minutes, somebody comes in and joins one half of the debate. You don't know what side of the debate you're joining. It's quite tense in the studio. It was when we were in the studio. It was just like lots of informative debates. The first one in particular is really good. We argue if John Cena buried the Nexus, one of the ones we did. So, and we also argue if Jinder Mahal was a good WWE champion. So there's some interesting ones there. Trying to think of some other ones we did. Quizzes are always really good. I always recommend our quizzes. We did a Viscera Christmas special. There's one as well. If you're really into the niche stuff, it's actually a really good episode. To be fair, the guys take the mick out a wee bit, but it's great. In recent times, we've done a lot of look backs at what is wrestling exactly, Sarah. We've done a lot of reviews of past pay-per-views, good and bad pay-per-views, which I think is great as well. 2 ones in particular that would stand out. You get a good one, Backlash 2016 we did recently, and a bad one, not a bad listen, a bad pay-per-view, King of the Ring 96. So there's a bit of everything, I think, in there. But we've also the draft stuff as well. I think we recently celebrated 100 episodes of the draft show. It's Saturday Draft Live. It's different. It's analytical. It's the banter is good. It's very well hosted as well. That one. I'm trying to. I don't want to enter to other hot shows as well. If you really like New Japan stuff, I've got a New Japan show as well. East Meets West with Scott and Grant, and a youth show too. We have something for everybody. Billy, I think as fair as you will know, there is loads, but in terms of the feature show, there's just some of the ones there that stand out to me.
And there's a fantastic interview with Alan Smith from Discovery Wrestling that went up not long ago that I think everyone should go check out. It's the host it's got a very very sultry voice, which I think everyone will enjoy. So as far as podcasts though, Sarah, leave with an ECW December to Dismember. If there's a space, get me in that one. I want to speak about December to Dismember. I'm all in for that. So Andy Mitchell was the most starstruck you've been during interview with the wrestler. We've answered that one, I'm afraid already. So you have to rewatch this again. I'm not going to tell you when it was. So you have to watch the whole hour and a half at this point to find out the answer for that. As far as other podcasts go, 18 seconds. Is this part of a conversation that we are not part of?
No, I think he's talking about the best Radio Opener show where he said Sheamus and Daniel Bryan was the best one. I think that's what he's talking about.
Ah, okay, fair enough. That's fine. I thought that was just a comment on something totally different. Right, so as far as other podcasts go, so is there any particular podcast that you listen to that you think may influence what you produce or what you suggest, or what the team suggests? Maybe they listen to, I don't know. Of course, you already mentioned Jericho's wonderful adverts, which come out of nowhere. But is there any particular ones that you listen to and go, I could probably bring something like that to SSR?
I try to listen to a bit of everything. I mean, sometimes it's quite hard to catch up on all the podcasts that you've got there. I listen to yourself, Billy. I'm gonna lie. I do listen to some of your stuff there. I've recently listened to quite a lot of Fightful stuff. I've subscribed to their Patreon recently. They're good for a used side of things, I think. What stuff did I used? I used to listen to a lot more than I do now. I listen to a non-wrestling one. I listen to the official Rangers one, which will annoy some people, but that's one in particular. They have got a good roundtable discussion type aspect to it. What stuff did I used to listen to? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I listen to a lot of the official ones as well. Conrad Thompson stuff. You can't not dabble in his stuff.
Jarrett one is amazing. I don't particularly like listening to Conrad Thompson, but the Jarrett one is just phenomenal.
The Pritchard stuff, the early Pritchard stuff was very good for that type of stuff. The Jarrett one surpassed it in a good way, I think, as well. What stuff? I listen quite a lot to the AEW Unrestricted one now as well. I'll try and listen. I'll dabble in a lot of stuff, to be fair. A lot of the UK stuff I'll dabble in as well. There's a few of them, depends on the subject. British Wrestling Experience, the Grapple podcast. That Grapple podcast, they podcast for about 3 hours straight. That's an effort. I don't know how they do that. I don't know how they manage with that.
We won't be doing that, don't worry.
No, but I try to dabble in everything. I always try to pay attention to everything that's going on in terms of the people tweeting stuff, people socialing stuff, people putting out. If something's there, I'll kind of dabble in it. I try not to rule something out completely, because I think it's a bit naive to kind of completely rule something out, unless you do listen to it and it's really, really bad. But I'm not going to say anybody's really, really bad, because I can't think of anything like that. But I will always try and dabble and listen to it. If I see something like that, I'll give that a listen to and I quite see the dynamic of it. But I feel like a lot of guys kind of have the 3-person max, maybe 4-person max dynamic. I think in terms of our stuff, we're one of the very few that will dabble in like a 6-8 dynamic, which is tough to do. And I think if anybody ever wants to try and listen to some of the stuff there, because that's something. But I will always listen to the podcast we're on, just to kind of see if ones that I'm not on that we produce, to just try and get an idea. I quite like listening to hosts and their kind of hosting technique, just to try and get an idea of how they do things. I actually listened to some of my old stuff that I did, and I thought I quite like how I used to host it, not how I do now. I've not hosted a show since then, so I might try and pull back into my old way, which is quite good as well.
So I mean, like we're not going to be in for 3 hours, but I think we've covered a lot of the 4 years of ESSR, and we've talked about the great moments. Because I'm hosting, I'm going to ask you my 2 stupid questions that I ask everyone, because I think that's only fair. So the first one we ask everyone, for those that are unaware, they're watching through the ESSR feed, I ask 2 questions to all of our guests on the SWN podcast. They're not wrestling related at all. They've somehow just entered into regular one we've already kind of half mentioned, but they're just silly questions. So the first one is, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Stegosaurus. I don't know why. It's
a classic choice. And recently I put my list of top 100 dinosaurs up on the SWN website. It is an awful list that I've missed out so many from, but it was difficult enough to get.
I should have put my Jurassic Park t-shirt on, Billy. I might have made you quite happy.
I recently got a little. I don't know if you collect. Oh, you do collect the pop figures. I used to got Dino Pool yesterday or a couple of days ago, and I was like, I had to get that one. It's a dinosaur and it's the pool. It's definitely going in the old background here.
You can kind of see Deadpool up there. I don't know if you can kind of faintly see him.
I know I've got too many. I've got one up there, Dino Pool. I've got a little mariachi one there. I've got the little stress ball as well.
I got
tattoos and just a bit obsessed. with
I
the
got
Deadpool.
Oh yeah, I love the Deadpool stuff. In terms of Funkos, the recent one I got was a Dwight Schrute one. I got him the other day. I'm a big Office fan.
Yeah, I never. That was one of the things I kind of watched in this pandemic because I didn't really get. I was like, oh, the British one's better, and then I watched the US one, and once you got past when they were remaking the British one, and it was just them.
Season two onwards. Season one's terrible.
I got it. I got the hype for it now. So, is there anyone on any future plans for ESSR that you want to divulge on this particular special episode? Or, yeah, we'll start with that one. Any future plans that you want to kind of give away to people that are watching this?
I can tell some of the stuff that's coming up in this year. We've got, in terms of new stuff launching, we're considering launching some new stuff on the YouTube feed. We might be seeing some old stuff from the old extra feed days coming back on the YouTube stuff. I don't want to reveal too much about it because it's not been recorded yet, but there could be some stuff there. The YouTube, see, we are looking potentially at expanding some of the YouTube stuff if we've got time internally for it, but that's been discussed. In terms of shows that we're going to be doing, I mentioned that the Debating Chamber show is coming back next month. So that's definitely something worth listening to. In terms of the show, we've got our schedule filled for the rest of 2021. So as Sarah said, she is leading the December to Dismember show that's coming up. We've also got, I'll say the shows we've got coming up. We've got a Takeover Toronto look back, the first one. We've done a Bullet Club profile. We've got a Luke Harper, Brody Lee show coming up soon. We did the Bullet Club. We've also got a Best Wrestle Kingdom matches show coming up soon as well. So a lot of stuff on that coming in the feature show. I'm trying to think what else. Nothing too much. Obviously, we've got the drafts finishing at the end of. Yeah, that's one thing I'll say. The latest season of the draft finishes after Survivor Series. If you're on the SWN feed, you never heard of it, you want to take part in a wrestling draft, the new season launches after Survivor Series. So that's something I would definitely recommend anybody getting involved in. Winner gets a chance to join the main league and compete with the big boys. I say the big boys, not the biggest, but in that one. We are looking also to start doing more interviews again. I have put some inquiries out. I've got some ones come back to me. I've got some ones in the pipeline. Nothing's been recorded yet, so obviously I don't want to say names because, as you know from experience, Billy, if you say the name, that will jinx it.
Yep.
Before the recording is went out. So that's something we've definitely got planned in there. But I think we're not planning too much because, as you know, real life's opening up again. As been for the last 3 months, a lot of people are doing stuff. And there's a lot of big plans going. Me personally, I'm getting married in July, so don't I overstretch myself. Because I know I will if I do plan too much. I have done in the past. So, but I definitely keep an eye out. There's some fun shows being lined up, fun concepts. Quiz Showdown's been planned through till May. We've got a show every month coming up till May. The next one, Sarah's hosting on pop culture in the 90s and 2000s, which will be fun. I think some of the ones recently we've done in non-wrestling have been quite fun. It's chance Scott might lose if it's not in wrestling, which is good to hear.
That's why I was like, if I can make it, I am making that one because that's maybe the only chance I'll have at winning one of these things.
Oh my God, we're back again. It's called, which is a bit of a 90s reference. Went into that type of stuff here. So yeah, we're on YouTube and we're on all good podcast feeds. If you've never actually listened, if you've never actually heard of us for the first time, this is the first time you've been doing it. We're on everything. So just search for us. There's loads of stuff, as I mentioned. We have been doing feature shows for 4 years, and we put out 3 shows a week at least. So it's quite a lot there.
So as we're kind of wrapping up, I realise I only asked one of my stupid questions. The other one is, what would win in a fight, 2 sheep or 1 cow?
Oh, what did I say at the time? I think I went with the cow. I think I went with the cow at the time. I can't remember what I said at the time. It was a very fierce debate at the time of who was winning the 2 sheep 1 cow.
So yeah, if anyone wants to find out what Stephen's actual answer is, go back into the archives and find his chat with I think they call themselves the Ronin now, but it would have been Luke King Sharp and Krieger at the time. Go back and listen to that. So yeah, as we're wrapping up, I think we've covered everything. People will be sick of hearing my voice by now, I'm sure. We'll go for just fantasy booking a little bit. If you could talk to anyone in ESSR, you bring them in either on a panel or as an interview, who would it be? We'll get it, manifest it. We'll get out into the ether.
If I had to interview anybody, I would choose. Oh, it's a tough one. I would either interview Stone Cold Steve Austin because he's my all-time idol, or CM Punk because the stories he could tell were unbelievable. I think he would absolutely amazing. He blocked the podcast on Twitter, Mr. Punk, unfortunately. So I don't particularly. It was either just before or just after we did a profile show on him. So I have no idea if you listened to it or not. I think we were quite complimentary. So yeah, I don't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, well, those weird things. Well, sorry, I'll tag him this. I'm sure you'll block me too. So that has been the celebration of Eat Sleep Suplex Retweet. 4 years of shows. There's hundreds of hours of content you can go listen to right now on Eat Sleep Suplex Retweet. You can find them at Twitter at Suplex Retweet. You can go to their website, eatsleepsuplexretweet.com. I'll even ask you how you came up with the name. So this is a great way to round up. So,
how did I come up with the name? It was around about the time that Brock was doing his Eat, Sleep, Conquer, Repeat thing, and Eat, Sleep. So I was. Yeah. Then he did the Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Repeat one with it, and I quite liked it. And I was initially actually just going to use that, and then somebody came at me, "Why don't you do the retweet?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I'm going to do that." And I don't know how relevant it currently still is, but it's hilarious when we get guys on media calls and you get people trying to read the name out from America. It's someone from Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet. It's like emphasis on the gaps in the words that they always comment. It's like Eat, Sleep. It's like I don't. We used to. I get the Twitter handle used to be really complicated. It used to be ESS Retweet. It was such a nightmare. I don't know why I never just went Suplex Retweet to begin with, but I used to try and read it out the first few shows. Please follow us on Twitter at ESR Retweet. It's just so bad.
I know. I'm thinking of changing mine, but I've gotten this far with at Scott Resnet, and I think it just sounds absolutely wanky because I don't like the term Brit Res, and now I've got a handle that's so similar. But I've gotten this. Like I said, I've gotten this far with it that I'm just like I can't change it now.
I'm anytime I ever think about it, I was like, no, it's catchy. We've got a logo. It fits well. Everything works. You know, I just don't change. Everything's perfect for that. I've been asked at times, why don't you change it to something else? I'm just like, because it sticks and it's unique. People know who you are, and it's people can't question it's not wrestling. It's good. Suplex
in it. Exactly. So I'm going to do a wrap up again. So I've been joined by Stephen Wilson from Eat Sleep Suplex Retweet, and you can go follow them on everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, probably TikTok. I don't know.
Yeah, we do have a Twitch. We just don't use it. We don't have a TikTok yet, though.
Yeah. TikTok, that's the future. At Suplex Retweet, and like I say, you go to the website eatsleepsuplexretweet.com. I have been your host of this show. If you don't know who I am, I've got merch. I always got the wrong logo. I was squeezing my own breast. You can go visit us, SWN Scottish Wrestling Network, which website swnscotland.com. You can follow me at ScottResNet. I have lots of opinions about nothing in particularly important. But you can go check us out. But thank you for chatting to me for this long about ESSR and just rubbish in general.
Yeah, thank you very much. And obviously thank you to everybody in the team for their contributions over the 4 years. It wouldn't be Suplex Retweet without them. I couldn't do it myself, I know that for sure. So yeah, thank you to all them, and thank you to everybody that's listening, and obviously thank you to yourself, Billy.
No bother at all. So that's the show. Thank you very much.